Gentlemen, the time has come once again to discuss
The Black Panther is ready for you!
Hunter, thanks for doing this. Had literally every theater in Missouri. Yeah, it's the movie. Which is unfortunate.
Because he was excited about this.
Yeah, he says he's probably not going to watch it today. Let's go ahead and get started then. Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Geeky Gentlemen. I am Sid Partout. Joining me today is Connor Nielsen and the Comics Kid 2099. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello. How you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Connor, how are you?
Yeah, you got like refreshments. You got nice, comfy chair and everything. You're all settled in. Good to hear. No one gives a fuck how Connor's feeling. Yeah. So today we're here to do a new movie review, which we don't do very often on Geeky Gentlemen. I feel like there's just way too many of those on the internet kind of thing. Like, as soon as a movie comes out, everybody and their brother does a review of it, and it's just like, you just get lost in the shuffle. But I was very, very excited for Black Panther, and I wanted to talk about it on Geeky Gentlemen. So here we are on Geeky Gentlemen. We're going to talk about Black Panther, but because this movie is still brand new, we'll do the first 10 or so minutes of this podcast spoiler-free, okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Spoiler-free being you can't say anything that didn't happen in the trailers, and, no plot details.
Okay.
So anyway, general thoughts, though. Connor, why don't you start us off? What do you think of Black Panther?
Black Panther is a movie I, too, was really excited for. I like Ryan Coogler as a director. Black Panther was my favorite thing about my favorite Marvel movie, which is Civil War. I was so excited. I wanted to see a Black Panther the day before I even saw Civil War. I loved him so much in Civil War. This movie is, I think, pretty good. Actually, it's really good.
Okay.
I really liked it, but I didn't love it, and I think it's shy of greatness. And I know that's probably going to be heresy to a lot of people. I'm sorry. I watched this really early in the morning on not a lot of sleep, so maybe I wasn't in the right headspace. I want to watch it again. I think that, there's like the whole socio-political element of this. I think that's great. This is important to a lot of people, and I think that's cool. I don't really watch film through the lens of politics. I mean, I know that's virtually impossible, and it's probably not even true, but I'm not black. I will never be black. That's just not a possibility, so I don't want to fake some kind of importance to me that this movie has, because I just don't have that lens. So be that as it may, I know a lot of people are loving this, and I'm happy they like this. I wanted to get that out first and foremost. I think, though, that this movie did something to me that I think that the first two acts are excellent, but the third act becomes a traditional third act in a Marvel movie, and I found that disappointing, because I almost felt like the story Ryan Coogler wanted to tell ends at end of Act 2. And then the resolution of it all kind of just, okay, then we have to resolve it, and boom, done. And I think just having, I don't know, I usually don't have this sort of complaint of knowing that there are other movies. To multiple areas of this movie almost like hinders a lot of the suspense that in this movie for me. So, yeah, I really liked it, though. I don't want to give off that vibe that I didn't like it, because I think that the story element here is rock solid and great. Ryan Coogler knows how to tell a story. I think that Michael B. Jordan is excellent, and Chadwick Boseman is maybe the coolest man alive. So I really liked it, and that's my initial thoughts.
Okay. Ruben, how about you?
I liked it quite a bit also. I've heard a few people say that it's the best Marvel Cinematic Universe movie, and I will also dispel that and say I don't think that it's the very best. I do think it's very good. I actually had the opposite thing that Connor had, where he liked the first two acts and didn't like the third act. I liked acts 2 and 3. I kind of felt like Act 1 dragged on a little bit, and I can talk more about that when we get into the spoiler side of things, but throughout most of the first half hour of the movie, I kept kind of thinking like, okay, when is stuff going to start happening? But I really like this world. I like pretty much most of the actors. If they don't have a whole lot of meat to their performance, that's not their fault. If they don't have a whole lot of meat, then they are at least giving it a very energetic performance, and that's very important. A lot of times you will see performances, they may have a lot of meat, and they may not be putting a lot of oomph into it. And so I thought even some of the actors here who didn't have a whole lot to work with, they were at least bringing something to the table that wasn't there in the script, and I thought that was good. I like that this is like some of the best of the Marvel Cinematic movies. It is painting it's giving us another corner of this world to explore. Before this, Doctor Strange, even though it's not one of my favorites of the MCU, it gives us a new element of this universe to explore and build on. And then other movies kind of did the same thing. And so, like, going back to Phase 1, at first you just had technological corporate sabotage, and then you later get into a little bit more lowbrow science fiction, and then you also get into just straight up mythology and stuff like that. And this is able to do that, and it's impressive when we're almost 20 movies in, that we are still able to find ways to expand this universe and make it feel new and fresh, even though this has been going on for 10 years. And like I said, we're almost 20 movies in. So I liked it. It made me want to read more Black Panther stuff. Specifically, it made me want to read Black Panther that's like this, because I have read some Black Panther that was not like this, and I wouldn't have to go back and read that. But this made me want to read about this kind of Black Panther, and that's, I think, very high praise.
Okay, cool. For me, I fucking adored this movie. I've seen it twice already. God, this is just... I'm not going to say perfect, but there are very few things that I could honestly say that this movie could have done better, from my opinion. I completely disagree with Connor. I think the third act resolves this damn near perfectly. I think everyone's character gets a great resolution by the third act. I think that Michael B. Jordan and Andy Serkis are in the... this isn't very high praise for the MCU, but I think those two are some of the best villains we've ever had in a Marvel movie. Because the MCU's got kind of, crummy villains for the most part, Loki and Ultron aside. I think these two are absolutely fantastic and round out the movie damn near perfectly. I love the portrayal of Wakanda. I love the themes that are being played with here, both the notions of imperialism, the notions of fear, the notions of surveillance states a little bit, and very much the idea of racial superiority is played with here immensely. This was actually in the trailers, so I can talk about it a little bit. And it's the thing that my head keeps going back to, and I think just shows how much thought and how much of the themes were impacting the visuals on screen. But when Eric and T'Challa are having their final battle, and they're both in vibranium suits that, expel kinetic energy, T'Challa's energy is purple, and Eric's energy is gold, and those are the colors of royalty. That is intrinsically tied to a lot of the themes of the movie, and so I was very impressed with this. I love the music in this. Killmonger's theme is fucking incredible, and it's odd because it's doing literally the exact same thing as the Joker's theme in The Dark Knight, and it works just as perfectly, but is still very unique to the character. Just everything about this movie is probably, in my opinion, as much of a masterpiece as it possibly could have been, given that it's got to be a big studio seller too. I could like the fights between everybody is the action's all well and good. I could have just sat there and watched Michael B. Jordan and Chadwick Boseman talk about imperialism for like 90 fucking minutes. You have no idea, because that was really fun to watch. And it's got a lot of really fascinating ideas behind it. Some beautiful performances. It knows how to be fun. Too, I love Shuri and T'Challa's relationship in this. I love the way that the Wakandans act amongst each other. And as someone who doesn't like Wakanda being the source of any conflict in a story around Black Panther, I feel that the way they handled introducing that element here was both necessary to the way in which Wakanda is introduced into the MCU and to the themes of the story. So I was very, very pleased with this. Mm-hmm. Okay. So we'll go round robin one more time real quick, and then we'll get into spoiler territory. Run, don't walk, go see this immediately. That is my recommendation. Connor?
I think it's worth watching, especially if you're going to watch it, see it in a theater. I think that you're right. The music is great. Especially Killmonger's theme. Me and Spencer, my twin brother, we were bobbing our heads during that because it was just so catchy and so awesome. And you are right. Eric Killmonger is a really good villain, and I love Andy Serkis in this movie. He's so much fun, and I will say though that the MCU I think has really turned around in terms of villains. I think that the Vulture is a great villain. I think that Ego is a great villain, and I think that for what like. Kate Blanchett elevated Hela into a memorable villain just by sheer campiness of her performance because she's so much fun in that movie. And so I think that this is a great way of we've really progressed into great villains, and Eric Killmonger is the best of them. So yeah, I agree with those points. I really like Shuri a lot. Letitia Wright is the actress. I'm surprised I haven't seen her in anything because she is excellent.
Okay. Connor. So what is your recommendation? Go see it in theaters. Thank you. Ruben, how about you?
Yeah, go see it.
Okay. All right. See, Connor just goes on for entirely too long, and Ruben's like, yep, go see it. Okay. So everyone that doesn't want to have this movie spoiled for them, get the fuck out. Everyone that, like a good, rational person, saw the movie already, let's talk about this. So yeah, Killmonger is amazing, and he follows a trope of villains that I absolutely adore, which is he's right. Just throw that one out there to the world.
Yeah, someone on Twitter, and I don't remember who it was, unfortunately, they were saying that they really like it whenever villains, they have their point of view, like, where you can see their point of view, you just don't appreciate how they're trying to get across their point of view, and that's what Killmonger is doing in this movie, and that's what some of the villains you mentioned, Connor, like the Vulture, he was one of the first villains of the Marvel Cinematic Universe that I really liked. I like the Vulture quite a bit, and I like Killmonger quite a bit too. And I think the common theme between both of them is that there's something sympathetic with them. For a long time, and you were hitting on this, Ian, for a long time, these bad guys were just kind of there. I think that going back before the days of Iron Man, like you looked at any superhero movie, like the Tim Burton Batman movies, where it's like every other scene featured the bad guy heavily. And then I think the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they were trying to course correct, and they course corrected too far to where like 99% of the movie is the hero, and you want to get to know your hero. You don't want them to feel like a blank page after the movie, like some of the pre-Iron Man movies did. But I think they went too far in that the villains just kind of felt there, and I think they are kind of doing a better job about that. I was thinking of some of my favorite of the Marvel Cinematic Universe villains, and a lot of them came from more recent movies, and Killmonger is one of the better ones.
Yeah.
I'll just throw out a suggestion. Do you think that with Spider-Man Homecoming having a great villain and now Black Panther having a great villain, do you think that has anything to do with really kind of getting a taste of them and introducing them in Civil War?
Yeah, That'll probably, introducing the hero earlier on and then getting to develop them further in their own movie probably has some effect on that. You're probably right. And so then they get to spend more time with the villain since we already have a good sense of who the character is. So it's almost like getting the, usually in movies with sequels, like a lot of superhero movies have, it's usually the second movie that's the best. And so for Spider-Man and Black Panther, their second movie in the MCU is their first movie, right? Yeah. So that's really cool that it's working out that way. But I want to spend a lot of time talking about Killmonger because I really, really like him, and I think part of the reason was, you know me, I try to avoid trailers whenever possible. I almost did not know Killmonger was going to be in this movie at all. The only hint that I got of it was the fact that I was at Walmart the other day and I looked at the Black Panther Lego sets and it said Killmonger. And I was like, oh, he's in this? Okay. And I didn't know who he was. I didn't know that Michael B. Jordan was going to be playing him. When Michael B. Jordan first came up on screen in that museum scene, for whatever reason, I couldn't quite recognize him. I think it was maybe the hair because I'm just used to seeing him shaved head. And so the whole movie, I'm like, who is this guy? Why can't I place him? Mm-hmm. And then, they don't call him Killmonger until he's already around doing his thing. And, when you finally get the real reveal of who Eric Killmonger is, his significant role in the story is just about to kick off. You don't get really any hints of him yet. It's so powerful. He's just this lackey that becomes the main villain instantly, and it's amazing.
That was something that I kind of was alluding to earlier. When I said it felt like the first act kind of dragged, for whatever reason, I did know that he was going to be in this movie, and I also try to avoid trailers. I try not to read up on movies at all. I don't think I did that with this movie, so I don't know how I knew that he was going to be playing Killmonger, but I knew he was going to be in it. But for the first third of the movie, he's in it just a little bit, but he's not doing a whole lot. It's trying to trick you into thinking that Claw is going to be the main villain of the movie, and so I didn't know that. I certainly didn't know, spoilers, that Killmonger was going to kill Claw, but I thought for sure that Claw was going to be a bigger part of the movie than what the first third of the movie would make you think he is. And so that whole chunk of the movie, that was a big reason why I was kind of come on, let's get to the juicy stuff with I assumed that Killmonger would be a big part of the movie, and I was kind of a little bit I don't want to say put back, but I was kind of disappointed that he wasn't in it more there at the beginning.
Yeah, for me, I didn't realize he was going to be in it as such a big part of it, and so going in thinking it was going to be Claw's movie and realizing, the second Andy Serkis gets shot, I'm just not ready for that. They have the interrogation scene, ever since Dark Knight, every movie has the interrogation scene, and then the villain escapes because they plan to get caught the whole time or whatever. And then the real scary stuff that they start to do starts to happen, right? And here, Andy Serkis gets captured, and there's an interrogation scene, and then he escapes, and you're like, okay, now whatever he's really planning is going to happen. And then he dies. Just the next scene with him, he dies. And just from there, I'm like, wait, what? What is this guy? And then he says, each one of these is for a kill. I'm like, wait a minute. I know this guy. And I've read Black Panther comics, but I've only seen Killmonger pop up a little bit toward the end of Hudlin's run, so I don't really know the significance of this character, and I don't know how much they changed him for this movie, or if he is really T'Challa's cousin in the comics. But man, just his significance in this story, the way he plays a role in this, God, Killmonger might be my new favorite Black Panther villain, which is crazy because I really, really like Ulysses S. Claw. God, The thing that I like so much about Killmonger is he's not only do you understand his perspective, he's right and T'Challa is wrong, and that's why he's able to win that first or second fight, depending on how you look at it. That's why he's able to win that fight between them for the right to be king. Because T'Challa's unsure of himself. He's sitting in there questioning everything he knows about Wakanda, and Eric is determined. Eric has his truth, and he is following it, and he has built his whole life to this moment. and then he's on a mission. I really, really respect the fact that Killmonger doesn't make any mistakes. So often in movies, the hero wins because the villain, like, screws up and trips or whatever. I really like that Killmonger, the instant he becomes the Black Panther, he has them burn the heart-shaped herb. That's just really smart from, like, the perspective of a villain. And he's got this whole great point about what Wakanda's been doing, just hiding in the shadows, that I think is really interesting in relation to Wakanda and in relation to imperialism. But then just everything that happens with T'Challa upon his resurrection and everything, the chance to confront his father and his past and his legacy, reinvigorates him with the truth, and that's what allows him to be able to fight Killmonger. And so the scene where they fight at the end, I'm calling in my head the Battle of the Kings, because they're both equally Black Panther in that moment. They're both complete and total equals on a level playing field in that moment, and they're fighting, and they both hold a truth, and neither of them is wrong. And it's just really, really powerful to see that fight. It's that level of, it's not just a cool fight scene with cool choreography and CGI stunts and stuff. There's this true battle of ideas beneath it, and I really, really appreciate about it. So, like, Connor, I don't understand with what you're saying that the third act kind of feels like trying to wrap it up real quick, because I think that the third act really feels like the damn near perfect ending to everything that was set up in Acts 1 and 2.
I feel like when it comes to that the finale, I'm mostly I think from a story element, you're right, but I'm talking more from like a filmic angle. There seemed to be less energy behind the camera than the rest of the movie, to me anyways. It seemed like, when everything was building up, and then Michonne and her Imperial Guard, put their spears up against him, and he, Michael B. Jordan puts on the Black Panther costume, and then me and Spencer were in the theater like, yeah, this is happening. We are super excited, and I'm thinking, why couldn't the Inhumans do something half as this good? And I'm just really, really excited. And then that excitement really quickly deflated, and I became kind of exhausted by all the action, because there was like, I felt like there was budgetary limitations on this movie. They're just kind of out in the field, and there's not a whole lot of wide coverage. It's a lot of medium and close-ups, and the choreography feels very isolated. And then whenever we do get wide coverage, it's like, people in like CG balloon people kind of floating around through the air as they're falling around. And then I also felt like Agent Ross is completely extraneous. He's just kind of an added person there. If I had to make a comparison, this reminds me of The Winter Soldier, which is a movie everybody loves and I really, really like. So these are two comparable pieces where I think on a story level, they're great. I just think in the execution, something feels lost in translation. I can't quite put my finger on it.
I guess that makes some sense. I think Marvel, especially after seeing how much shit Man of Steel got for, putting the lives of civilians at stake, I think Marvel has been much more cautious about where they stage and how they set their final battle kind of moment. Because Man of Steel, obviously when you watch that movie, Zack Snyder clearly wasn't thinking about people being in those buildings, right? That just clearly that thought did not enter his head. So ever since that, we've been just very aware of, okay, if it's by a city, they're doing things to protect the people. And if it's not or ideally it's just not by a city, which is like why Civil War is at an airport, which is, in all honesty, I do think that it's kind of a blandish setting for that epic fight, but I don't care.
Yeah, but they made the setting interesting. They go crashing into the airport, and they come out, and they use like the air track terminals. They use their environment.
Yeah, but they use the vibranium mound as their staging for the final battle.
Yeah, it's a rock.
They use it's a giant cave system with trains, and they use that as an excuse to have dialogue without the cliche holding hands and gritting teeth dialogue.
Okay. Yeah, but that's two people sort of isolated, and that climax doesn't really take place in that location. It's just on a train track.
I disagree. It's the train track is in that location. I don't know what you're saying.
They're only using
the
that
thing is
part
where
of
it is.
They're like, I don't know. Whatever. Never mind.
Okay, I
I'm getting
mean,
caught
it's
up on,
just
like,
that,
training
they're on the
sequence.
train. No, they're on the train track because that's where T'Challa's directed the fight. So from like a character standpoint, he's smarter to pick where he's locating things and to take advantages away from Eric.
I get that,
I think that's cool and character focused, and it uses a unique setup of Wakandan technology. And then as far as what's going on the surface, they want to avoid the notion of civilian casualties, and so they have a battle in a field, which is, I don't know, it's pretty traditionally African kind of notion. As far as like traditional combat goes, you do battle in a field. That's just where all like medieval quote unquote battle happened at, and now it's just the same kind of thing, but with super technology based on vibranium, and the stakes are pretty much equal between the two sides.
I understand that. I'm talking more from an entertainment aspect, and I guess I think a lot of this I would not be as kind of exhausted by this if I at least understood Wakanda as a tangible place and not so much as a abstract concept, because I feel like it is an abstract concept before it's a tangible place, because we're only really see like a cliffside, the inside of a palace, like the Q bunker, and then like a street, and then we get like a CG part where they're flying through the city, and it's like I don't really feel like I've been to Wakanda. I feel like I know the people from Wakanda. I don't feel like I've actually been there though.
Yeah, but I mean, you get the whole ceremony, the pomp and circumstance of the rite of passage for the Challenge Day, so you get a real good sense of the people of Wakanda and the different the different tribes.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like they don't set it in the city because they don't want to put the city at risk.
I'm not saying I don't want the battle to be in the city. I at least want to understand the city, so I understand what they're protecting in a tangible place when they do fight in the field.
I feel like you understand what they're protecting based on the ideas that Wakanda stands for.
Yeah, that's the abstract concept element, though. And like I like that part of it, and I get that. I'm just saying, like from a direct connection element, I feel a little bit of dissonance between the stakes. I get it from an idea level, not from like a in-universe tangible level.
I guess I can't really. Can you name something where you feel like you're getting something from a tangible level as opposed to an idea level? Because I'm having a real hard time understanding what you're coming at it with.
I like another movie or something.
Yeah, like is there another movie that's got a similar like big action scene where we get it from a tangible level and an idea level?
Yeah, there's Lord of the Rings where you see like people. Like what's the? I haven't seen Lord of the Rings in a while, so this might not be a great analogy. But like that big white city on the side of on the hill, and like you like see them in the streets and like talking with people, so you really get with that stake. But then the actual battle is sort of like on a wall, and that. So I feel like I at least know the culture there. I mean, I know the culture here, and I'm not just trying to say that you shouldn't feel this way. I'm just trying to say my feelings towards it.
No, I get you. I'm just trying to understand like what about like. Do you think that maybe if you see this again, you'll get more of an identity to the people? Because I feel like we get a lot of insight into what life in Wakanda's like just by seeing T'Challa talk to different people, just by seeing the different clans show up for the Challenge Day.
I get the clans showing up for Challenge Day. Like there's a part where he and Lupita Nyong'o are walking through the streets, and it's like one block, and then we come back to that exact same location at the end of the movie, and it does like there's a part like Sakaar in Thor Ragnarok. Like I felt like I got more of a sense of like physical place, because like you see like the Hulk parade, you see, and I actually like this movie a lot more than Thor Ragnarok. I should probably let that be known. But then like you see like the crashed helicarrier, and there's like stuff like that, and then you also see what life inside the palace is like, and then what the Colosseum life is like. It's like there's a lot of different geographical points on Sakaar, and I feel like we're there for less amount of time than we're in technically Wakanda in this movie. That's, I guess, yeah.
Okay, I mean, whatever works, I guess. Ruben, did you have any of that, like, disconnection with the third act, or is this Connor just being weird?
I wasn't thinking about it when I was watching the movie, but hearing you guys talk about it, I kind of understand where Connor's coming from. It reminds me a lot of the first two Thor movies, where, like, the first Thor movie, I felt like we got to know a few of the characters in Asgard, but we didn't get to know the city of Asgard. And then in the second Thor movie, they compensated for that a little bit, and it felt like more of a real place. Like, we got to see more of Asgard in the sequel. And so I'm hoping that, well, I can kind of see where Connor's coming from, where it seems like we get to see, we get to know these characters. We get to know Shuri a little bit. We get to know, I can't remember her name, but the one who's his guard that goes with him. We get to know her, and we get to know his ex-girlfriend a little bit. But then I can see where Connor's come from, and I do agree where, like, you know, they're in a little area where there's like a market, and then like we get to see him. I'm going to probably mispronounce his name, but reading the comics, I've always called him Chala. I've always thought that the T was silent, and so this movie was throwing me off where they were calling him T'Challa. So anyway,
I've always heard it as T'Challa.
okay, yeah. Well, and they're doing the same thing with his dad too, where they call him T'Chaka, and I always thought it was just a silent T and then Chaka. But anyway, we get to see him talking to his friend who is in I think he was in Get Out, right? That one guy.
Yes.
Okay,
Daniel
and
Kaluuya.
and he is. I wasn't sure what is he a herdsman for rhinos? Is that what he does? Because he is in a relationship with.
He's the Wakandan military.
Okay.
Like leader.
I was confused because they were talking about like this rhino it's still growing or something like that, and then
they talk about the war dogs, so he's kind of like the de facto military leader, I think is the way they set him up, because like he has that line earlier in the film when T'Challa and him are talking, he's like, you let in refugees, they bring their problems with them, but if you give my men weapons, we can go around the world and change the problems in the world.
Right.
And so like that sounds like he is supposed to be kind of the military head of the state.
Yeah, and after I said that about him raising the rhinos, I remember that he was there at the meeting, so I felt like an idiot. But I do agree. Like, I feel like this is a movie that it's one of those things where you can only do so much in a certain amount of time, and so they are developing the characters. And then if we get a Black Panther 2, or we get to see Wakanda in another Marvel movie before Black Panther 2, then we might get to see more of the nation itself and what's at stake if there's more there. So yeah, I can see that. Yeah.
That, and I'd say that I think some of the identification with Wakanda comes from the mythical element of it. You know, you got to always think about the reasons why Black Panther was created by Jack Kirby in the first place, and every thing about the character is very, very purposeful. So the idea of an African nation that was never colonized is a very intentional choice. So it's this mythic idea of a prosperous Africa that never had to deal with imperialism and the heights that it could have gotten to on its own without that, mixed very much with the idea of socially not being like the imperialist West. Those two ideas blended together, the soul of Wakanda, I feel, is on the line in the battle with Eric Killmonger. And this actually is a good place to transition a little bit, though I do want to come back to one thing about Killmonger eventually. This is a good place to transition a little bit and talk about the introduction of Wakanda to the MCU, because there are two ways to do this, right? Either you do what they did, which is Wakanda has been hidden as like this kind of secret society throughout the entirety of the MCU, and now it's just coming to light in the world, or you kind of shoehorn it in and say, oh yeah, Wakanda has always been this, big, superpower nation that just, for whatever reason, we've never talked about before. And I would say even the way they did it, they kind of contradicted the little we got about Wakanda in what is it?
War?
Help me.
No,
not Civil War. Age of Ultron. Yeah, like they have one line of about Wakanda where they're like, it's made of vibranium, the strongest metal that's only located in one place, Wakanda. It's something to that effect. I'm like, well, apparently Wakanda was keeping that a secret all this time. But it's whatever. It's hardly the first continuity error in the MCU.
That's true. I kind of took it as, because Everett Ross said, well, your dad told us that all the Wakanda was stolen, and then like
all the vibranium was stolen from
sorry,
Wakanda.
What did I just say? Did I say something dumb?
All the Wakanda was stolen.
Yeah, all the vibranium, right? Yeah. But so maybe that was like not necessarily a government secret, but something that he told the government, and then the government kind of said, "This is what happened." Because I thought it was weird the first time I watched Age of Ultron when Bruce Banner couldn't pronounce Wakanda. I thought that was weird. Like, you wouldn't be able to pronounce like an actual country in the real world. But then I thought, well, if they're going with it like they are in this movie, where like nobody even cares about Wakanda or knows what it is, like as far as they're concerned, it's just, you know, a small third world country in the middle of Africa that like they like. I think in one of the trailers there's a line that doesn't make it into the movie where Everett Ross says like, he's describing what he knows of Wakanda, and then Claw says, "No, it's actually that's a hologram. That's an illusion." So like that's what the world thinks of Wakanda. So I guess maybe they were thinking like, oh, at one time like vibranium was a huge thing, and it was located in this one part of the world that Bruce Banner can't even pronounce, and then that part of the world didn't become important because all the vibranium was gone. So I didn't see it so much as a continuity error. Now that we've seen this movie, and we definitely see there was purpose behind like them keeping their own importance, keeping it secret. I kind of am more okay with that scene in Age of Ultron.
Okay. I just because of something you said, I'm just really curious now. So I put the name of a random African country in the instant message box. You want to just for my personal enjoyment, try to pronounce that for me? Yeah,
I would say
just because you said you wouldn't know the name of an actual African country. Go ahead,
so I'm on edge. I'm gonna go ahead and say Mauritania.
I don't know. I'm not sure.
Okay.
If someone knows, please let us know. But I found that really funny. It was like, you could name fucking made up countries in Africa, and I wouldn't know. I don't specialize in African geography.
There's Mozambique and Zimbabwe and Mauritania. Yeah.
Yeah. There you go.
I am really good with.
I guess I would expect. I guess I would expect Bruce Banner, because he traveled the world and like probably went to Africa hiding from S.H.I.E.L.D. at one point. So I would have thought he would have been like, "Hey, I went to Wakanda once. They have good froyo," or something like that. I don't know. Like
the Wakandans are known for two things: their vibranium and their frozen yogurts.
So you were Connor. You were saying that you thought this movie was very similar to The Winter Soldier earlier, and I was kind of noticing from a plot point. And this is going to sound like an insult, and I don't mean it as an insult, but I was noticing some similarities with Iron Man 2 here, where in Iron Man 2, the villain of the piece, his father had a connection with Tony's father, and his father was wronged by Tony's father, and so now he's coming back for revenge against Tony. And in a similar way,
I feel like this is Iron Man 2 done
right.
right.
Yeah, and that's why I was going to say this is not meant as a diss against Black Panther, because I think Black Panther is about 100 times better than Iron Man 2. But you've got the same thing. You've got Eric's father was wronged by T'Challa's father, but at least here T'Chaka had a good reason for attacking. What was his dad's name? It was.
Oh, it's new. It's like N''Job.
Okay.
Something like that.
I was thinking. Yeah, I was thinking of Forrest Whitaker. His name was Uncle James or something.
His name was Zuri, and he was going by James. That was his
right. I knew that. That was what he called him, Uncle James. Sorry. Everyone's gonna think like, who's this idiot? And did he even watch?
N'Jobu.
Okay.
N'Jobu.
Yeah. So.
Sterling K. Brown's character, N'Jobu.
But yeah, you had a sort of a similar situation where Eric, his father, was in his eyes wronged by T'Chaka, and now he's coming after T'Challa, and also everything T'Challa represents. So I think it is Iron Man 2 done right.
Mm-hmm. And this is actually a good place to wind back a little bit to Killmonger. So the thing I really like about him is initially when T'Challa takes the heart-shaped herb and goes to the spiritual realm, part of me just as a comic book fan was really, really hoping that is it I can never remember. It's Basque or Vosk. It's a B or a V, but the Panther God. Part of me was really hoping the Panther God would show up because I love how fucking trippy and weird the Panther God is in the comics. It's always like this straight. Like there's in the Hudlin run, when Storm and T'Challa get married, they have to go to the spiritual realm, and the Panther God has to approve the marriage. And like it's just the trippiest scene where T'Challa brings Storm before the Panther God, and he like gets down real close to her, sniffs her, and then licks her and goes, "Okay, she's fine." And then they come out of the spiritual realm. I was like, "What the shit did he do?" He's just an animal. So it's weird shit like that. So I was really hoping for that, but what they ended up doing with T'Challa visiting the spiritual realm is he talks to his father, and he has this moment of his father telling him, "You're a good man, so it'll be hard for you to be king," which comes back later when T'Challa goes to see his father again, that I really like. But also what's really interesting is how that parallels with Eric, where when Eric goes to the spirit realm, he sees his father. And the other really, really subtle but brilliant thing that I really love about is T'Challa is a man the entire time he sees his father. When he first goes, he has a flashback to seeing his father as a child, or from the eyes of a child. But once he's in the spiritual realm fully, he is a man. He is a man. Whereas when Killmonger goes to the spiritual realm, he's switching back and forth between boy and man. Mm-hmm. And that kind of shows you how, like, that informs his character in a big way, because he's very one-track mind. And that's necessary for his character to have the determination that he did, to be able to be willing to sacrifice anything, including his humanity, to get where he needs to go in life, which is to confront T'Challa. He does like abandon a lot of stuff about himself, and he seems very caught in this, adolescent, childish kind of one-track black and white worldview. And that, and he's not wrong about what is wrong with the world, but his idea of how to make it right is horrifying. And I really love the line that that T'Challa has for him, is like, "You'll destroy the world and Wakanda." Mm-hmm. Talking about them as if they are two separate things, which I think is, again, adds to the mythology. So I love how, so in this, talking about all this kind of shows you how well connected and well interwoven a lot of the thematic ideas of this film are. Wakanda, the world, the struggle between the cousins, as kings, proper kings that both have a right to be Black Panther because they both passed the trial at that time, is just really, really interesting to me, and I really like how that all ties together.
That's a really good point you had brought up about when he goes to the spiritual realm. He shifts between, when Killmonger does this, he shifts between boy and man. I didn't even think about that. That's a really cool insight into character.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that was incredibly intentional. Like, even when he's a man, he's still wearing the same outfit of a child. We talk about this with Batman a lot, wherein Bruce Wayne the idea of Batman is the idea a child would come up with, and so Bruce Wayne has just carried that childlike notion with him into adulthood, and I think Eric Killmonger is very much the same way. In this film, at least, he has carried this idea of right and wrong and by any means kind of notion with him into adulthood, but he still has this relatively simplistic worldview, and he does not see the possibility of problems to arise from that. And I also think it's really interesting to connect this back to Civil War and Black Panthers and T'Challa's character arc in that, because T'Challa, had a more simplistic worldview, and it takes seeing the destruction that can bring, both on a personal and material level, to people, for him to break out of that and become, a more well-rounded, smarter character. And it's probably the best line in Civil War. It's right up there with that, "My dad made that shield, it's not yours." But vengeance has consumed them. It has consumed you. I'm done letting it consume me. Whereas vengeance has consumed Killmonger.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I mean, you're putting this together, and I'm like, oh man, how did I not think about that? You're right, yeah.
Exactly. Well, you're just an idiot.
I'm a moron. I shouldn't have watched this at 8 o'clock in the morning with 20 other people in the theater, and I'm tired out of my mind. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. This is Black Panther.
Yeah, so, like, that's why I love this movie so much. I really love when superhero movies play with these thematic ideas and these bigger than life ideas and weave them all together. And this movie does, I feel, a masterful job of doing it all. And it's not just that it's on the thematic level. It reaches all the way down to the colors that it's using. With again the idea of the contradictory by Western standard idea of black royalty, with again putting in that Battle of the Kings, which I'm going to continue to call that until the wider community just adopts it. By the way, the Battle of the Kings with Eric wearing gold and T'Challa wearing purple. I think that is really, really interesting. The whole notion of Black Panther as a regal black man being so contradictory to our images in Western society of black people and Africans in particular, to tie that all together between Eric and T'Challa, I just think is absolutely beautiful to do it in such a simple little color choice.
One thing that I want to say about Ryan Coogler and his, like, he has such a handle on how to tell a story. That opening scene could have been the most confusing mess I've ever seen, but it's not. Like, oh, he's a spy and he's from Wakanda, but he's actually not. But he's actually kind of doing something here. But then his friend isn't his friend; it's a spy sent to spy on him, and then he's also the brother of the king of Wakanda, who's now here. Like, all of that could have been like really confusing, and as happenstance would happen. I watched a movie last night called The Snowman, starring Michael Fassbender, and that opening scene is it's exactly what this could have been. It's poorly edited, really confusing, and by the time it's over, you're guessing about, okay, so I guess this is what happened, and that's not the case with here, because Ryan Coogler really gets how to reveal information through dialogue and people just talking to one another in really cool ways.
Not just dialogue. I feel like a lot's up to the visuals. Like, so much is communicated with that damn lip tattoo or whatever the fuck it's supposed to be. I don't know. It looks painful. Every time you see that, it's got a lot of context to it, and it's really, really interesting. And also, again, plays with some of the perceptions of Africa. Like, I love, it's undeniably, like, you go, whoa, when you see the guy with the big disc in his lip and his ears, right? You're just immediately, you go, whoa, but the fact that he's seen that he's such a member of the ruling council of Wakanda, that he's the leader of a whole tribe in Wakanda, these ideas of things that we think of in Western culture as quote unquote savage or backwards being just a part of the culture for an otherwise, highly functioning advanced society is so bizarre to us. So I really love the way it plays with your perceptions of tradition and savagery like that. Like Wakabi, he's got Killmonger has the scars. Wakabi's got a smaller version of it around his face and stuff, and like that's just a thing that a lot of tribal cultures do throughout the world and also in Africa, of rite of passage pain rituals and stuff. And it's the idea of attaching that to identifying yourself as Wakandan by tattooing your lip with this fucking black light substance is really, really cool. I'm not sure if that's supposed to be vibranium or what.
Have either of you seen Blade, the first Blade movie?
Yeah.
That reminded me of the whatever it is, the thing that marks you as a servant of one of the vampire houses. Well, it might have been in Blade 2. It was in Blade 2. Never mind. But anyway, so anytime somebody would like pull their lips down and show that tattoo, I was thinking like, oh, they're a servant of that vampire house from Blade 2. So anyway, that's...
So I got the impression that the tattoo was like genetic. I don't know why, but did he get it from his dad?
I was thinking that at first too, but then like his dad straight up has the line in the vision where he says, "I gave you a key." Mm-hmm. So like if it's something that he gave to him, then it has to be something you do after the fact.
I thought
right?
it was like a genetic gift or something. I don't know. I could be wrong. But...
I don't know. I've got to imagine that if he uses the word he gave him a key, not that I left you a key, that he gave him a key, that he gave him that tattoo. That's the way I interpreted it, at least.
Fine. Yeah. Really quickly, while we're sort of here, Daniel Kaluuya is such a good actor. I love this guy. He has very big, expressive eyes, which is kind of his most important thing, and why he was cast in Get Out is because that character's a photographer. But his eyes are like so good. Like he's clearly always acting, but like he always like his base expression is like something's on his mind. And whenever it cuts to him, you know, oh no, don't think what you're thinking. Don't side with Killmonger, I'm gonna side with T'Challa. And so anytime they cut to him, like I love Daniel Kaluuya so much. I'm so happy he's nominated for Best Actor this year at the Oscars. He's so great. I love him.
Okay. Yeah, I thought he was really interesting. Though, like, I feel his character and kind of the attitude that he shows in Wakanda is probably one of those things where I'd have a problem with it outside of the context of this being the, 20th or whatever movie put in the MCU. Because I don't like stories with Wakanda that paint Wakanda as having a lot of internal strife and problems, and I don't like when the conflict of the story comes from within Wakanda. Like someone who's not quite got the ideals down, or someone who's like one isolated person, I'm somewhat okay with, but I have a very like Star Trek thing where I'm like, if you're making the conflict of your story Wakanda itself, then there's a problem with your ability to understand Wakanda, because it kind of eliminates the point of why Wakanda was made the way it was in the story. And so the reason I'm kind of giving, him and the internal strife within Wakanda a pass is because this was introduced into the MCU so late in the game, relatively speaking. So it's just like, you kind of have to establish that Wakanda has some more backwards views that they need to evolve out of. And they do that with him, and then they do that with T'Challa's ultimate realization in his second trip to the spiritual realm that gives him the conviction to move forward as a true king.
And also, you compared this to Star Trek. I guess one thing that later Star Trek shows kind of realized was, if you make the whatever century that the show takes place in a utopia, then you don't have any conflict, and then it's very difficult to tell stories in a utopia. And so, like, Deep Space Nine is not set in a utopia. Like, it's a very shady world with, like, lots of backstabby, evil, sinister government forces at work in the world of Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, and I really don't like that about Deep Space Nine. That legit bothers the fuck out of me about Deep Space Nine. And so, like, when I hear people say, like, Deep Space Nine is the best Star Trek series, I'm like, well, it's not really a Star Trek series, so...
And I haven't watched all of Deep Space Nine. I haven't watched all of any of Star Trek show, but I would say, like, it becomes very difficult to tell stories when the key component to a story is conflict, and you don't really have conflict in a utopia, and if you do, it's not a utopia. And so... Well,
I feel like the answer, and this is what I generally say for stories featuring Wakanda, is you can have conflict. The conflict has to come from outside of the state, from outside of the utopia. Again, I'm willing to give it a pass here because the isolationism, like the radical isolationism, the backwards views on refugees, is clearly an internal conflict within Wakanda, where you got W'Kabi, who wants to keep refugees out, and you've got what's her name, Nakia, who wants to change Wakanda and bring them in. That has a clear distinction between the two of them, and so it's clearly a internal strife, and it's necessary to the plot of how they're introducing Wakanda as a secret society within the MCU.
I have a question about Wakanda in the comics. Is it traditionally like a hyper isolationist location?
The comics always treat Wakanda, or often treat Wakanda, I should say. I still feel Hudlin has the best take on it. He has a really good voice for Black Panther in Wakanda. Wakanda is non-interventionist, not isolationist.
Okay.
It doesn't trade because it doesn't trust the outside world with vibranium. In the first volume of Hudlin's run, which I always recommend to people, who is the Black Panther, Everett K. Ross mentions that they have vast reserves of other precious metals like gold, platinum, silver. They have huge oil reserves that they don't even bother to pump because they understand the ecological perils that mining and pumping oil will bring on the rest of the world. So Wakanda is as socially and emotionally advanced a nation as it is technologically advanced.
Okay.
And that is something that I find absolutely fascinating and really admirable, is it challenges you to imagine a utopia. And so when I see things like Ta-Nehisi Coates' run on Black Panther that has all this strife happening within Wakanda, I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to say it's like bad storytelling from a technical level. It's just you're not accepting the challenge. You're taking the easy way out as a writer. Like it's really easy to write a Superman story where Superman does something wrong and has to deal with the consequences of that. But at that point, you're not really writing Superman.
Yeah.
Because that's counter to the point of the character. That's writing Wakanda as having massive internal strife where people are like mad that there's a monarchy and want to switch to a democratic government undercuts the whole point of Wakanda as a state within a monarchy. Like it's just it misses the point to me, and I don't like when things do that.
Well, and I know you love this movie, so I'm just probing questions because you know much more about the stuff than I do. Would you be okay if, like, moving forward, this was like the only real conflict that Wakanda really had, and it's this moment of monumental change, and now that they've kind of worked it all out, moving forward, it's going to be basically a utopia?
I mean, I feel like by the end, T'Challa is validated in admitting that the nation was wrong to be so isolationist out of fear for itself. I think there's a lot of stock to put into the line in the end credits scene that should have just been in the normal movie. Fools build barriers. Something to the effect of fools build barriers, smart people build bridges. Some to that line, but like that whole thing, it's hard not to think of let's build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it. The notion that Wakanda's not being an isolationist nation anymore, that it's going to help move the world forward socially and politically. I think that Wakanda has gone through the change, and now it will ideally be the utopia it's meant to be, and that any conflict that they deal with is going to come from the outside world. Okay. Trying to enact the fears that Wakanda has of trying to take from their resources or corrupt them.
Okay.
That's at least how I feel it's going to go. What I really want to see is what the hell the Wakandan refugee program is going to be like. That's possibly the thing that I am the most interested in out of these changes happening to the nation, because I've always been under the impression of, like, I would really, really kill for a Wakanda or a Black Panther anthology series that just every issue or every story focuses on a different Black Panther throughout history, and just seeing the ways in which Wakanda exists differently and is more advanced than the rest of the world at any given point in history. Again, not only technologically, but politically, socially. So, like, I've always been of the opinion that Wakanda offered citizenship to any escaped slave. That's just been a thing that I think should just be part of Wakandan history.
That's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of which, I was kind of toying with that idea. Would I be the only one interested in a Black Panther spin-off movie that just, like, give T'Chaka a movie, give any random Black Panther throughout history a movie?
I want to see a Shuri movie. She's awesome.
She is. Someone on my Twitter threw the idea of, let's make Ironheart a thing in the MCU, but instead of introducing Riri, let's just have it be Shuri.
Yeah, great.
Shuri.
Problem solved.
Yeah,
there we go.
There we go. See you, Robert Downey Jr. No, she is absolutely amazing. I love her characterization of this. She's the comic relief and the tech tech gal, the tech gal, the Q to T'Challa, and I love I've seen the movie twice, and everybody in the theater laughs at these shoes hide sound. Guess what I call them? Sneakers. That line is absolutely adorable.
She somehow made a Vine reference that I laughed at. That's never happened before, and that's impressive.
Wait, there was a Vine reference?
Yeah, what are those?
Yeah, that's I didn't laugh. I don't even get it. I'm an old person. I don't
No,
get
I mean, I don't even get that stupid Vine. I think Vine is like the death of culture, but like
Oh, no. Vine has provided me with hours of laughs. Have you seen the Mac and Cheese Kid?
I hardly watch any Vines. I never went to Vine, but I always see some pop up. I'm like, that is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life, including.
No. Let me describe the Mac and Cheese Kid, because this is fucking hilarious, and it makes me laugh every time. Just thinking about it makes me laugh. So it's like the 6-second video of, like, first it's his mom stirring mac and cheese, and you're getting that sound of, like, the cheese mixing with the noodles. And then he just, like, pans the camera up and gets really close to her and he goes, "That's what good pussy sounds like."
Oh, no.
And his mom just shock on her face as she looks at him. And he immediately starts laughing. And it's the funniest thing ever. It is exactly what preteens and teenagers should be doing with technology.
So, but the Vine is like a person just looks down at I think it's like a cop. He just like aims the camera down at his shoes and just shouts, "What are those?" And I think it's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. And then I don't know. I think it's Letitia Wright's like just exuberant energy, and she lights up the screen. And I was like, I laughed at that. I am surprised I did. Good job.
That's cool. I really liked her. What's his mother's name?
Angela Bassett is the actress.
Angela Bassett. She does a really good job too. They just feel like a family, like that scene where he first arrives back in Wakanda, and like he's got like that sibling bickery with her, and then she walks off and she flicks him off, and Angela Bassett goes, "Sherry," and she's like, "Sorry, mother." Like, oh my god, that's so perfect. It just feels like a really real family dynamic, which is really fun.
Michonne from The Walking Dead plays the head of the Royal Guard, and she's so good in this movie. Like, she's really cool. I thought the whole like James Bond casino scene was wonderful, and that might be my favorite sequence in the movie. I mean, I'll even forgive, like, I can clearly tell that staff is not connecting those hits, but regardless, like, it's still such an entertaining scene. And the part where he's on the car, and then, like, he uses his claws to tilt the car, I'm like, oh, that's so cool. I think that is probably my favorite part, because it does really do a good job of showing the dynamic, not just from, like, a family unit, but also in a functional unit, and how they all
Connor?
one another and said, hello?
Yeah, you cut out just a little bit there.
They bounce off one another in a very good way.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, you just made me think of one thing that's like kind of interesting to talk about. Because I'm going through this stuff in my head. I think the heart-shaped herb is like a more natural form of the super soldier serum, or is it maybe just like a completely different thing that's more powerful? So I was trying to gauge T'Challa's strength and Eric's strength in this, and stopping a rhino. I know Chris Evans stopped a helicopter, but I'm not so sure about like which is more impressive, that or the rhino.
And also we have to wonder, anytime he does something like that, how much of that is coming from his person, and how much of it is coming from because he can redirect energy when it's given to him. So if he turns a rhino, is he redirecting energy, or is it just his sheer strength?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's a little bit of both.
Did you've read more Black Panther than I have, Ian. Does he have superpowers in the comics? Because I always thought that he was like Batman level fighting and no superpowers.
No, the heart-shaped herb in the comics does like enhance abilities. So it's like the way I've always read it in the comics is it just gives you like peak human performance kind of thing. Okay.
And when did they introduce the herb?
I don't know off the top of my head. I don't think it's introduced in the original Jack Kirby, so maybe somewhere along the line in Christopher Priest. I haven't read that run, so I couldn't tell you.
I know also kind of along the same lines, Captain America in the 60s, it felt like in every single issue of Tales of Suspense, they would say, Captain America doesn't have powers. He's just a really healthy athlete. They would say that all the time. But then you look at the movies and he's like grabbing a helicopter and keeping it from taking off. And personally, I feel like, Captain America is a super soldier, so he should have powers. But Black Panther, I've always, like, during the whole movie when they would say, this takes away your Panther powers, I was like, I don't want him to have Panther powers. I just want him to be a really good fighter.
That was something else I was a little hesitant on. Like, the idea that he was already ceremonially the Black Panther before his father died, like he already had the powers and everything. I was really hoping that they wouldn't give him any of the benefits from the heart-shaped herb until he was like officially king. I was really hoping that the T'Challa we saw in Civil War and the first act or the first scene in this movie, I was hoping that was just T'Challa naturally, and the heart-shaped herb was going to enhance him further. But it's whatever.
I guess to answer your question,
that's like fan nitpicky stuff.
I guess to answer your question, we won't know until we get confirmation as to whether or not he can get drunk.
There you go. There's the real thing right there. Either that, or we need just a Captain America Black Panther arm wrestling contest.
Yeah.
Yes.
But I don't think the audiences will be able to handle the sheer amount of manliness.
It's too bad that spoilers for Thor Ragnarok, everyone. It's too bad that Mjolnir is now broken. Otherwise, T'Challa could walk in and say, "All right, stand back," and then he budges the hammer just a little bit, and both Steve and Thor, like, they have that look on their face, like, "Uh oh." Yeah, I'd be down for that. And then he
he
can drink some of that ale that Thor brought in Age of Ultron, whatever it was that he brewed for 1,000 years or whatever.
And all the World War II vets got like completely knocked off their ass.
By the way, this is one of the best Stan Lee cameos we've had in a while.
I just thought it was okay. Maybe it's just because Stan Lee, I think gets a little, like, depending on who you talk to, Stan Lee gets way too much credit or not enough for any given character. Black Panther is the one that he deserves absolutely no credit whatsoever for. So it was just weird for me to see Stan Lee in this movie. Like,
as long as we're getting him, I thought it was pretty funny as a gift.
Yeah, it was all right. I just thought it was okay.
I
don't know. I don't think anything will ever top the Stan Lee getting kicked out of the Fantastic Four's wedding in Silver Surfer. I'm Stan Lee.
I'm a weirdo because I prefer like the early 2000s cameos where like you really could blink and you miss it. Like in the X-Men, he's just there on the beach and like in 0.5 seconds, it's like, oh, there he is. He's putting mustard on a hot dog. Like I kind of prefer those because it forced you to pay attention a little bit more. In one of the Spider-Man movies, just a fraction of a second, he's like moving a kid out of the way while some debris hits him. I prefer those, but if we are going to be getting like speaking cameos like we have been for a while, my personal favorite is Tony Stank. That had me in stitches. There's no reason that should have made me laugh as much as it did. But
what was it
in Civil War when Steve sent a package to Tony and is this the house of Tony Stank? I don't know why that made me laugh so much. It's not that funny on paper, but I liked it.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't know, like, part of me is still hoping that the Fantastic Four goes back to Marvel now, and we get a Marvel Fantastic Four movie that ends with them meeting Jack Kirby like they did in that one comic.
In the Mark Waid run, yeah.
Yeah, I would kill for that on screen. That'd be amazing. Stan Lee could be there, I guess. I don't know.
I'm kind of over Stan Lee. How would you have them do that, since Jack Kirby died in the 90s?
Oh, no, there's just, there's been people, like, saying that we should get this guy, and his name escapes me at this moment, but, like, there's this actor who looks dead on like Jack Kirby. All you need to do is bush up the eyebrows a little bit more.
They should get the guy who played Hank in Twin Peaks, because he played Jack Kirby in Argo.
Yeah, Chris Mulkey. He's also in Cloverfield for 2 seconds.
Yeah, cool. Okay, let's get back to the movie proper. We mentioned the score a little bit. I I want to talk again about Killmonger's theme because I mentioned this. It does exactly what the Dark Knight Joker theme does, where it's like that underlying note and then like just a couple simple little notes that simultaneously create this really ominous but really cool and very distinct notion of this scene has this character in it, and it's intimidating. And so like Dark Knight, you got the piano wire razor blade kind of sound and the but-up, 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 but-up. And then in this you got the like dum like that bass line. Oh, it's so cool. I dig the shit out of it, and the rest of the music just gets completely overshadowed by that amazing theme.
Yeah.
Like the rest of the music, I like it quite a bit, but God, every time that theme plays, I'm there. I'm with it. It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
Did you guys have any other musical moments from the score that really stood out to you?
Not so much in the movie, but in the trailer, there was a song by the rap duo Run the Jewels. I'm not super familiar with this musical group, but their song, I think it's either called Step Into the Spotlight or it's called something else. But that was in the trailer, and I really dig that song now thanks to the trailer, and that wasn't in the movie, and I was kind of disappointed with that it wasn't in the movie.
Okay.
Yeah,
Connor?
I mean, it's really good. I remember back when Doctor Strange was coming out, and for whatever reason, I was kind of getting excited for that in the weeks leading up, and I read reviews that were talking about the music in that movie, and I couldn't tell you what the music was like in Doctor Strange. Like, it's that forgettable for me. This is music that Killmonger's theme has like the beat backing it, right? Like kind of a more of like a clubhouse hip hop sort of sound to it, and it's really cool. And that I remember like a low shot of like ships taking off once he becomes king, and it's like that's a moment that's sticking with me, and it's really really cool. The most memorable music I could think of in Doctor Strange was a Pink Floyd. It was a Pink Floyd song he played during the credits. So.
Oh, no, it wasn't during the credits. It was during the scene right before he crashes.
Oh, is it? Oh.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Vegetable Man.
Okay. I know there's one specifically they played during the credits that I was like, oh, where was this? So I think that, yeah, and the Kendrick Lamar recorded songs for this, didn't he? And I think one of them plays during the initial credits, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah. I really liked a lot of the music in this. I thought it was pretty cool. Again, just Killmonger's theme so overshadows everything. Like, particularly that first time he goes to sit on the throne. Maybe it's just the music mixed with the walk, mixed with the look of the outfit that he's wearing and that fucking gold Black Panther necklace. And then just the shot where literally Wakanda is upside down.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And like it just spins with him as it tracks and spins at the same time, and it's so cool. Again, the thematics are dripping down to literally every part about this movie. So it's making the things that you usually don't notice, like color grading and camera work, that you're meant not to notice. It's making them more noticeable by heightening the thematic elements, and so that's what makes this just so damn good, in my opinion. What else is there to talk about with this that's like I really really wanted to make sure we got into? How'd you guys like the Dorha Maji? And I'm sure I'm fucking that up. Ooh, what is that? What is that awful sound? Ruben, your mic is doing something terrible right now. There you go.
Oh,
yep, it's good.
Okay, I didn't hear anything. Sorry, I wasn't making any noise. I don't think. The Dorha Maji, I like them. Really, I'm only really got to know the one. You said she was Michonne in The Walking Dead, Connor.
Yes.
I've never watched The Walking Dead. I did not know that was her because she has quite a bit of hair in The Walking Dead, and she has none in this movie. So I didn't know that was her. But yeah, I like.
You know, I actually thought that the wig gag is a reference to The Walking Dead because she is bald in real life.
Huh. I did not know that. I liked her. I thought she was at one point. Someone might have been Ryan Coogler said that Shuri is the Obi-Wan Kenobi of this movie, and I thought that was weird because you guys both mentioned Q Branch, and I thought that was definitely what they were going for. If I had to pick an Obi-Wan Kenobi, I would say it's the lady who played Michonne. I felt like she was more of she's an already experienced warrior, and T'Challa may not be that much younger than her, but it seems like he is still very much a rookie in some ways, while she has been doing this for a little while. So I felt like she was kind of the slightly older mentor figure, and I like that. I always dig that archetype in stories.
Okay. Yeah, I just thought it was cool to see Dora Hamaji. I thought it was particularly interesting with Okawi, Okoye. Some of these names, it's just hard to do. I thought it was interesting with her because she has like the whole devotion to the state above all else, which like it seems like she's kind of betrayed everybody because she's willing to still stand and protect Eric now that he sits on the throne, even though she hates everything about what he's going to do to Wakanda. But it ends up being the saving grace because of her devotion to the tradition and the state of Wakanda, she's able to put that above, her love, Wakabi. Which is really interesting because, like, we get nothing of a relationship between these two except for literally 2 lines that acknowledge a relationship existing between them. And yet you totally feel the impact of what that moment means for her, which is just, that's a lot of really good acting for fucking 2 lines to pay off in that big of an emotional beat.
Yeah.
And I think it was just cool to see all the other Dora Hamaji on film because it's such a weird comic booky concept, and it's like a Bond girl kind of, or Bond villain kind of concept, but on the good guy's side. And it's just cool as shit to see all them fighting Killmonger at once, and I love how Killmonger is like got just this fucking evil grin on his face because he just loves killing because he's just lost his soul. It's so perfect.
I really thought the Grace Jones reference was a quality reference.
Yeah, when you said James Bond, that immediately was I was thinking, I'm like, hey, they kind of sort of did a James Bond reference there. I was really hoping that they would have like the early 90s flat top kind of look that she had in Conan the Destroyer, Grace Jones did. I was really hoping they would have that for the Dora Hamaji in that flashback. Sadly, that was not to be.
Oh well. Okay. It seems like I could talk about this movie fucking forever and a day, but I'm not sure what else I have to say of much value. Besides just, this scene was really cool, and this scene was really cool. I think my favorite scene, though, is the scene where all the Black Panthers turn into Black Panthers. I really like that.
Yeah, and I like just revisiting the dad. Like, I kind of figured, because there's a pretty big chunk of the movie where T'Challa is not in the movie, and I was pretty sure, like, okay, obviously he's going to come back, and then he's going to go back to the, I don't want to call it the spirit world, but I guess you can call it that. And
they call it the spiritual
realm. Oh, did they?
Don't
Oh,
they?
okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking, I was really getting an Avatar The Last Airbender vibe through all of that, like where Aang would talk to past avatars. I don't know if you guys ever watched that show, but it kind of reminded me of that in a lot of ways. But I really like when he goes back and talking about that same scene where they turn into Panthers, but he basically rejects their, not their values, kind of what they chose to do. I really like that scene. That may be my.
Yeah, I like that he moves Wakanda forward and gets that conviction.
And I agree with you. That first really, really post-credit scene should have just been a scene. I think this comes from we have to do 2 post-credit scenes. What are we going to do? And this is really...
Yeah, God forbid Guardians set us up to, like, raise the bar even higher than that. Shit.
Yeah, and I think that, like, this is really one that could have just had one scene and we would have been fine. Like, that one scene could have just been part of the actual movie because it closes up the themes of the movie, and then the other one could have just been that's a cute little bonus scene. Like, it didn't need 2 post-credit scenes. I don't know.
No, I agree. It really didn't. Like, it's, if you were gonna do 2, I would have preferred something more along the lines of, like, it's funny, we were just talking about how much we don't like Ant-Man, but I would have preferred something like Ant-Man where you see, like, the proper tease for the sequel, because like what it usually is the post-credit scene used to be used to tease that there would be a sequel or that it was going to be part of a bigger universe. If you look at like Iron Man, the first Iron Man, it ends by letting you know that it's part of a bigger universe. Same with the Incredible Hulk. And then somewhere along the line, we started to do this thing where there's clearly going to be a sequel to this story, as well as be part of a bigger universe. So we started breaking them up into two. Mm-hmm. This one, like, it's just the first post-credit scene isn't really teasing that much of there's going to be a sequel. Like, it's kind of giving you the sense that, yeah, there is a wider world that Wakanda's going to change the world by coming out. But that's just, like, generally that was the theme of the movie. That's the closing of the theme. That's not really teasing, like, I don't know, M'Baku deciding that he's still really bitter with T'Challa and he's going to turn into more of a villain. Or it doesn't, like, show you Claw becoming an entity of pure sound or anything like that. Yeah. Which, even though you kill Claw and you kill Killmonger, which is just a thing I really wish these movies would quit doing, damn it. Like, killing the villain, I do think there is legitimate cause to think that Claw might come back, given that his body is in Wakanda. So there's you can do some weird science shit, and he can become pure sound, and then Andy Serkis can do what he's best at and just perform in a motion capture suit.
Well, I was heartbroken when they shot him. I'm like, okay, he's gonna keep him alive to drive him to Wakanda, to fly him to Wakanda, and then he didn't. I'm, oh no, we lost Andy Serkis. No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, I don't know why he would need him to take him to Wakanda. He knows where Wakanda is. Everyone knows where Wakanda is. I wonder if he, like, drug him in the whole country, or, like, what was down with that, but whatever. Anyway, but just the way that, like, that first post-credits scene works, it's just part of the movie, really. Mm-hmm. And then the second one is part of the universe, and it's just, like, you need the proper tease for a sequel, like Claw being experimented on or some shit.
This isn't so much here, but my least favorite of the post-credit scenes is the one where they're literally taking a scene from a future movie and just putting it partly in it. Like, I don't remember which movie
Guardians,
it was, but where we got a post-credit scene of Falcon and Captain America talking like, oh, Tony wouldn't understand, we've got Bucky here.
That was Ant-Man.
Okay.
Yep, that was Ant-Man.
Hated that, but then that wasn't too bad because I was able to immediately go and watch Civil War after I watched Ant-Man because I was just going through and marathoning through all the Marvel movies last year. But then, or might have even, it was in 2016. But then they did it again in Doctor Strange, and I remember talking with Connor about that, saying like, I don't understand this scene, and I really wish they would stop doing that. I would rather.
Yeah, I think the first one that did that was really awful was Thor: The Dark World and Guardians Volume 1, because just totally it's so off.
Although at least there, it wasn't literally a scene from Guardians 1.
No, true. It wasn't literally a scene, but it might as well.
Yeah, that's true. Because they got the same director. Did they? I think it was a different director. Anyway, yeah. Post-credit scenes, what can you do?
Yeah.
I guess I'm more cool with that first post-credit scene because I felt like the movie towards the end there was kind of falling into a bit of that Lord of the Rings style, like, and then this ending. All right, credits. Oh, okay, we're still going. Okay, and then this, and I get why I'm not saying like the scenes in and of themselves are unsuccessful. I'm thinking the editing and the placement of them. They're and then I think maybe some of the sound, like music choices, where it does feel like, okay, now this is kind of like a more quiet way we're going to end this, and then nope, okay, now we got another scene. Okay, now we got another scene, and then when that first post-credit scene came up, I was like, oh man, it's another one of these scenes, because it did feel like it belonged part of the rest of the movie, but I'm like, at least it's broken up by some credits. I don't know. I
don't know. I could see that maybe a little bit. I think Lord of the Rings is still way worse about it than anything else since. Because, like, okay, help me out. I'm trying to remember the sequence here. Eric dies, and then what happens after that?
Yeah, I don't know the sequence. I know that there's the part where that ends, quote, air quote, ends with him talking in the basketball court where the movie begins, and then before that, I think, is where he's talking with Shuri or something, and
No, he's talking with Shuri in the basketball court.
Okay.
And then before
So I
that, wasn't he
think-
talking with Lupita, and they kiss a little bit? Was
Okay,
that-
yeah.
Yeah, that's what it was. That is the odd man out, I feel. That scene's probably the weirdest part, because honestly, that and the Shuri scene both form the same thematic point to the movie. Like, they both form T'Challa saying that he's going to take things further. So I feel like you maybe could have just combined both of them and had them both, like, had both Shuri and Nakia, or whatever her name is, in the basketball court. That probably would have been more efficient and not felt like as padded.
Yeah, and-
But I can kind of see that. It feels like a little bit too much.
Yeah, maybe you hit it right on the money when you said that. It's kind of hitting that same thematic point. That's great. I couldn't articulate that. And honestly, I don't know how people are feeling about this. I would honestly be okay if he and what's her face didn't end up together, or like kissing at the end, if they're still not really an item together, because she just likes being a spy and she likes being out in the world and stuff. And so I don't know, something about them being together made them both a little less interesting to me.
Maybe. I can't help but feel like that relationship I'd be more satisfied with, if not for the fact that we know, Marvel, that X-Men are likely coming back to Marvel. Like, especially, like, I'm a fan of it. I know some people aren't. I like the idea of T'Challa and Storm being married. And so that would be a really, really cool way to start to introduce the X-Men to the MCU. If you introduce Storm in a Black Panther movie, I'd be so down for
That'd be
that.
interesting.
As him and T'Challa, as her and T'Challa having a romance together. That'd really work for me. But what can you do? They started making this before that was even hinted at a possibility.
I wouldn't want them to do this, but they could do the whole Dark Knight Rises thing, where like in this movie, or like in another one, like where T'Challa says, "Hey, since you're my wife now, why don't we start calling you by your birth name? Oh, you mean Aurora? Yeah, that's a great name. Let's call you that." I wouldn't want them to do that, but they could do.
No, because mutanism needs to be at its heart. Like, it needs to be from childhood or from puberty kind of thing. I wouldn't want to do that.
What do you mean? It's going to be revealed that she had these powers all along. She just doesn't like to use them.
Yeah, that'd be weird. Like, she is from the River Tribe.
I'm one of those people. I didn't care for the wedding between Black Panther and Storm. I read that one volume of Hudlin's run, and that was the only part of his run I read. And other than that, all I saw was like it was completely messing up the X-Men comics that were coming out at that time. Like, it was really just screwing everything up there. But they could make.
I don't care. It was awesome in Black Panther.
Yeah, and
she was
they
great.
might make it work.
Like, I love that volume when they're like coming into Wakanda, and like the people in Wakanda are like, "We're tracking his plane entering, but there's also a massive storm front. What's going on?" And then like someone just like smiles to themselves and goes, "Good job, King." I really like. It's all tongue in cheek. It's awesome.
Yeah,
because they were having sex.
I get it. That's a great laugh, Connor. I approve. Yeah. So, are we? Are we ready to rate it?
Yeah. If everyone's good, everyone's got everything off their chest that they wanted to talk about with it. Oh, I meant to tell a story because I told you, Ruben, earlier. I didn't get a chance to tell Connor. I texted a friend of mine and see what if he'd seen this yet, and he's like, "No, I'm going tonight." And then he texts me some pictures of himself, and he's wearing like a black suit jacket and like this just bright, reflective gold scarf. And I'm like, "You do you, man. You do you." You go enjoy the regal ship. You deserve this. So that was just funny. I really like how I've loved seeing the reaction from just generally the African American community, but especially the Black nerd community, of how hyped everyone is for this movie. It's so cool and it's so exciting, and I'm really happy that we are getting, the first really good Black superhero movie. Like, I like Blade, but that's not a superhero movie. Let's all be honest with ourselves. And the less said about Steel, the better.
What about Hancock?
So, like, this is...
No, I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
Yeah.
What about
no.
Blank Man?
Or Meteor. We're just like being horrible right now. I haven't seen half of these.
No, I mean like it's the first proper black superhero movie based on a comic book, and in a long time, if nothing else. And it does it so well. So I'm loving hearing how people are reacting to this. That everyone's having such a good time. That it has all these, advanced ticket sales, and it looks like it's going to probably perform the best for any of the MCU solo movies, which is great. So I'm really excited about that. Other petty, stupid shit. It's a little weird that this takes place timeline-wise a week after Civil War. Week or 2 weeks after Civil War. I don't know. Spider-Man Homecoming kind of fucked up the timeline that had up until that point been tracking with real time pretty well, and this really throws a wrench in that gear too. So I'm like, okay, we'll see how they finagle this one together.
Well, apparently they said they're gonna come out with a timeline, like an official.
Yeah,
timeline.
Which will then have to be edited 4 times a year.
Yeah, I'm feeling like this is getting to that point where it's like, okay, the Marvel sliding timeline is starting to become a thing in the real world. So I don't know. We'll see what happens with that. But otherwise, yeah, I think I'm about done. So let's go ahead and go on to ratings. I'll go first because this will not be surprising at all. I'm gonna give this movie 5 out of 5 sneakers.
Connor?
You go ahead, Ruben.
Okay, I will give it 5 out of 5. Herbal flowers. What are they called? Herbal heart or heart-shaped herb?
The heart-shaped herb.
5 out of 5 heart-shaped herbs. Performed by Nirvana.
I'm gonna give this.
Waiting on you?
I know. I'm trying to decide. I'm gonna give this 4 out of 5. Lip rings.
I think it's more of a disc than a ring.
Yeah, that's good. I was trying to think. Lip disc. I'll give this 4 out of 5.
Okay.
Lip disc.
Okay. So I meant to say this at the beginning, but anyone who says anything negative about Black Panther is a racist. So congratulations, Connor, you're a racist.
Where's White Panther?
Where's White Panther? Have you guys seen like the shitty little fuck boys like posting images of like people, brutalized or whatever, and saying that like, oh, we went to go see Black Panther, but then a bunch of black kids beat us up and said this movie isn't for us. Like, have you seen this bullshit that people are posting? Like, they just do a Google image search for like someone that got the shit kicked out of them, and then claim it was them or someone they knew at the Black Panther screenings. I'm like, fuck you guys. Just the shittiness comes out. Oh God, fuck everybody that can't be happy that Black Panther has a movie and it's amazing. I'm digging this. It's a good fucking movie. Okay, let's see here. Ruben, is it your turn? I think it is.
Yes, and what are we doing? Discussion, not a review?
Yep, we need a discussion topic for next week.
Okay, why don't we talk about our favorite comic book writers? I think that's something broad enough that we can get a lot of mileage out of it, but also like it'll be easy to easy to do, I think.
It's funny, we rarely do list videos on Geeky Gentlemen, but since you've joined in to fill in for Rascal, we've done a bunch of list videos. That's really funny.
All list videos from the Comics Kid 2099. Yeah.
There you go. Okay. Everyone, thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed Black Panther. If you didn't, you're a racist. Just kidding. And I hope you join us next week. Until then, I'm the Philosopher.
I'm the Comics Kid 2099.
And I'm the Santa.
And we are your Geeky Gentlemen. And we will be discussing things.